Hi everybody and welcome to Database Camp. My name is Sarah and in today's video, if you guys have seen any of my previous videos, I think you could kind of get a sense that I read nonfiction. It is my favorite genre and it's my preferred genre, but because I'm doing these videos on YouTube, I feel it's only fitting for me to dabble into novels, to dabble into the world of fiction. So I'm no stranger to the world of fiction, but because my taste has changed so much since I was in school, like, grade school, I'm trying to get back into fiction. I'm hoping that this will work for me. Like, I really want to find a lot of great fiction books to also be able to recommend those books to you guys. I don't just want to read nonfiction, even though if it was up to me, I would definitely just stick to nonfiction, but it's good to diversify your interests in a lot of different things, especially for me in reading. I feel like I should be reading a lot of different stuff, not just nonfiction. So with that being said, I was looking through the fiction books. I didn't go to the library or anything. There's like apps that your library has that allow you to download ebooks and rent them that way. So I was looking through the different books in this app that my library has, and I was scrolling through and scrolling through and scrolling through. I do have a limit as to how many books I'm able to rent within a certain amount of days. So I tried to be as selective as possible, okay? I tried to be super critical of which ones I was going to pick. So there was this one book that caught my attention. The description was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be something that I really like. I really thought, okay, going into this book, I really wanted to love it, okay? So please understand this before you take this video all in, okay? Because I was picking books that I knew that I thought I would like, okay? This is a little foreshadowing here because I ended up hating this book, and I felt compelled to review this book completely, but because I disliked this book so much, I wanted to break down for you guys exactly why I dislike this book and why I feel it's objectively a horrible book, okay? I want to be fair. I don't want to just say that I hate this book because I hate this book. I want to explain to you guys exactly why I dislike this book so much. I'm gonna try not to say hate, but honestly, it's hard for me to say, it's hard for me to not say that I hate this book, but honestly, for me to start dabbling into fiction again and for this to be my experience. Now, okay, look, I'm reading this book that I'm reading another fiction book right now that I actually like. So this is why I'm upset, because it's like, I happened upon this book and I just strongly dislike it. And it's like, why did this have to be my introduction back to fiction? You know what I mean? So if I could get a drum roll, please. This book is called Pigs, and it's by Johanna Stoberock. I wanted to start by saying, I'm sure this title wasn't intended for me. I'm sure the audience of this book is probably middle schoolers, maybe even younger. I'm not entirely sure. With that being said, I would describe the plot for Pigs as 4 forgotten children who are living on an unknown island with 4 or 5 or 6 mammoth-sized pigs. The kids live on the island rent-free, and The only thing they have to do in exchange for their place in paradise is feed the pigs each and every bit of garbage that lands on its shores. If not, they will probably be tortured and beaten by the grown-ups who also live on the island. Now, if I were describing the plot for this book in my subjective point of view, I would say it was a surrealist take on the Boxcar Children with a bit of King Lear inspired violence sprinkled in, along with a ending that will have you surprised that you even finished the book. But seriously, the ending was what some might say a happy ending, but like a morbid happy ending. The more I think about the ending of this book, the more I'm left surprised that this is even a book for kids. I mean, should we really want children to think it's okay to murder old people just because they force you to work and threaten to torture you or take away your life if you do otherwise? If that were the case, I'm pretty sure we'd be priming our children for like an anti-capitalist uprising of biblical proportions. Read the book if you don't believe me. Or don't, actually, because it'll probably end up in the garbage, and I'm pretty sure that's the last thing this author wants. I read the digital copy, so, you know, thank God I didn't have the physical, because I probably would have thrown it in a fire, and then my library would probably be like, what the hell happened to this book? But yeah, I read the digital copy, so you know what, if you think I'm lying to you, just read a digital copy of this book. The style of this is very simple. Some would say straightforward. Others would call it bland. I would say it was dry and dry. The biggest thing I dislike about this is the author does this thing, I'll call it the lists. So she does this thing where she rattles off unnecessary details in a way that adds nothing more to the book other than a bloated word count. Like, for example, when she describes the trash, there's a whole bunch of trash that often surfaces on the shores of the island, and she'll go on describing the different remnants of trash along with convoluted backstories about how each piece of trash made it there. Like, I'll just say, you know, I'm gonna act like I'm Johanna Stoberock, and I'm just gonna throw in a little tidbit that she might have written in this book. So like, for example, here's a shoe fit for a newborn child. It was probably used at a baptism and thrown away with all the other toys this kid played with, since there was no one who bought it at the garage sale that the family had just before their son went off to college. The writing, it wasn't good. Like, the lists don't add anything to the imagery that they're describing, and it's not even written in a way that's poetic or unique. It literally adds nothing, and it sounds like a legit list, and it bothers me. It bothers me so much. You could put more effort into the backstories of the actual characters, which, yeah, the characters don't have backstories. So much for character development. How can you even begin to develop a character when the audience doesn't even know their beginnings? Seriously, though, like, there's a boy who makes it onto the island who just so happens to be the twin of a girl who's already on the island. We never find out anything about this boy's family. We never find out what could have happened that got his sister on the island before him. It's like the book also took inspiration from that TV show Lost, where it just ends up leaving you with more questions and you never get answers to those questions, and you just end up with more questions, and you're kind of just like, by the end of it, feeling lost. I didn't even see that series Lost, so I kind of don't even know what I'm talking about. But I know you know what I'm talking about. I cannot even bring myself to understand why the author mentions the trash so much. I don't really understand what the message of the story is. There is no real clear focus. Should the audience be mad at the grown-ups or the people who throw away so much stuff? And if we are going to be angry at the polluters, shouldn't that be examined instead of the constant struggle the kids have with the grown-ups? The kids hardly ever complain about their garbage duties. I'd say they have a disdain for the pigs more than the actual garbage, because the garbage doesn't bite their fingers off like the pigs are known to do. The only clear villains here are the grown-ups on the island, and it's as if the pigs are the heroes. I mean, because they eat the world's trash and keep the pollution issue under control. I don't know if there's some grand metaphor at play here, but I just wasn't savvy enough to figure it out, so good luck to all the middle schoolers trying to crack the code on this one. Oh my god, I almost forgot to mention the narration style. I couldn't really understand what or who the speaker was. I'm guessing it was an omnipotent narrator who knew the motivations and thoughts of each spoken for character. This was another extremely poor choice. I was feeling very confused as to why this point of view was chosen, because it kept me from connecting with the characters. This style really made everyone feel incredibly unlikable. And it sucks because I wanted to be able to be on someone's side. I wanted to be able to root for all of the kids considering the horrific circumstances they were in. But I found myself disliking every single character far too much to even pity them for their folly. As an aside, to whoever categorizes these books, I'd make the argument that describing this book as dystopian was incredibly ambitious and extremely presumptuous. For a story to be dystopian, in my most humblest of opinions, I'd say it needs to adhere to certain terms. Personally, my terms would be there needs to be a clearly defined form of government. And by government, I'm meaning a ruling force. The ruling force has to be pervasive. This is where the book fails. Because when you're stuck on an island, there are only so many people to rule over. In the case of this book, there's only 4 or 5 people being affected by such a rule. This is clearly not dystopian, because the author makes no mention of the world that exists outside of the island. No mention, at least in a way that is meaningful. I mean, I have no idea how anyone on the island ever made it there, including the pigs. There is no such claim made that the pigs were instated there by some government power. And on the topic of government, the children have this steadfast belief that whatever the garbage makes it on the island, needs to be fed to the pigs. They're not allowed to keep not even one memento. One of the children, while contemplating this belief, asks the question, who even makes the rules? Which would imply they don't even have like a clear ruling force, because the grown-ups are completely indifferent towards them in every regard. They call upon the children only when they need to complete a chore. This book is not dystopian. If anything, I just categorize it as a surrealist horror novel for kids. It's gruesome. It definitely had instances of violence. Even the ocean appears to be sentient. No kidding, even the ocean would attack, provoked or unprovoked. If someone was taking a dip, it was gonna tear and rip off your flesh. Not only was the ocean sentient, but the pigs were like supposed to be gigantic, and for some reason the author made no mention of their poop. So, I guess they just burned all the energy up inside? I don't know. The grown-ups had unlimited access to a constant influx of luxuries. The grown-ups never cooked, yet their kitchen was brimming with food and alcohol. Again, the author kind of leaves us thinking it's just divinely appearing out of thin air. The novel is too close to our reality, but takes huge leaps into a strange fantasy that is never further explained, which is what makes it surrealist to me. And the violence and overall juvenile writing style makes it a horror novel for a young audience. Maybe I've got more issues with the description of the book than with anything else. Overall, I would still give this book a 1 out of any rating system. That's how much I disliked this book. I wish I didn't even have the opportunity to give it a rating at all. I would recommend this book to my worst enemy if I had one. But to everyone else, I would say avoid this book if you want to go the rest of your life without reading the worst book to have been written, edited, and published. Sorry, not sorry. If you have different views, please do make sure to post them in the comments. This is not meant to make anyone angry. These are strictly my own subjective opinions while reading this book. My experience with it may be extremely different than yours, but these are my objections to the book. I try to explain them as clearly as possible. I don't want to just say a book is bad and because it's bad. I want to explain to you guys why I felt like a book is not a good book if I feel it's not a good book. Like I said earlier, I went into this book thinking that I was going to like it, and perhaps because my expectations were so high, I ended up hating it as much as I did. So just wanted to put that out there. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please make sure to leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. And if you like this video please give it a like and subscribe to my channel to continue watching more videos from me. I would really appreciate it. So I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Bye!